Hey everybody, welcome to our virtual event, our webinar that's going to touch on supercharging your ACC contract work using Heidi. Thank you for all for joining us. I'm very much looking forward to this event and excited to learn from Josh as well. For those that don't know me, I'm Sarah. I'm one of the client partners at Hendrix Health, and Hendrix is the implementation partner for Heidi in New Zealand. I'm a physiotherapist by background and came to know about Heidi through a concussion, actually. And my physiotherapist told me about Heidi that in a way to help me with my return to work. So the ACC work is very close to my heart in both the physio that helped me perspective, and then because it helped me in my return to work be able to do the work. So I've really put a lot of effort into bringing that towards you guys. It's still all of it's a work in progress. But yeah, this is our first event about ACC and Heidi. So thank you for joining us tonight. I'm going to start with just going over the basics of Heidi for anyone that might be new. For those that already know this, it's a refresher mode. So I'm just going to, I hope everyone's okay. We're going to um, be recording this session so we can share it with anyone who isn't able to join us tonight. And we will also be putting it on our Hendrix Health website so people can reference it whenever they want to. So I'm just going to start share my screen. And Max or Josh, everyone can see my screen, right? So just on how Heidi works, like I said, a lot of you might know this already, but I like to use this 4-step timeline. We start with our consult. In the consult, the most important part is your consent process. So here you can have various touch points. You could start by, having information around your clinic, or rather, and should also have your consent within the initial consent touch point that you have with that client that you send out, just letting them know that Heidi is a tool that is used in the space. But then the most important one would actually be when you ask that client that's in front of you the consent verbally. So when you see them for the first time, it's definitely best to ask it in the way that's a little bit more wordy, but we like to teach our customers and Heidi users to go about it in the way that Health New Zealand likes us to. So that means we would let the client know what this tool does, how their data is handled, and then the important part is just giving people the right to say no. So this would look like something like, hey Max, do you mind if I use Heidi today? Heidi is a tool that helps me to capture our notes, capture my notes so that I can focus on you fully in our session. Just know that your information remains private, just like any other medical record that comes through this practice. And this is totally optional, so let me know if you'd prefer if we don't use it. But I can also happily show you the notes at the end just to show you what it does if you're curious. So that's kind of how we are encouraged to ask for consent the first time. Obviously, if you see your clients repeatedly, you would just say, do you mind if we use Heidi today? That would be absolutely fine. So that's how you would start your consult. Then from the transcription side of things, here what's important is that you want to know that Heidi does not ever hold a voice file associated with that session. So instead, it streams that session straight into text. So at the end of the day, you're only going to have a transcription and no MP audio file. This is important because these days, having an audio file hosted anywhere is quite risky when it comes to impersonation and fraud, those kinds of banking risks that happen very regularly. So in Heidi's case, that's not even part of the process. It will just be a straight transcription. And that includes anything else that is invited into that session, such as your context documents, which we'll speak about later, referrals, Even some people, like your ED doctors, take photographs of the paramedic reports and upload that as context. That is streamed into text, for lack of a different way to describe it. And all of that session data is hosted as a transcript almost in the cloud. So at the moment, all this information is held in a cloud environment in, at the moment, Australia, but there's a lot of work happening, and New Zealand will be getting their own cloud, which is great. So in this cloud environment, the session or session data that looks like a transcript is held in this cloud, and it is de-identified. So any information that is identifying to that customer will be picked up and removed, and placeholders will be put in place. Those placeholders, to simplify it, would be something like Jane Doe that lives on Sesame Street, NHI number 12345. That's what it would look like in the cloud. And those identifying pieces of information are put into a separate secure vault, also within that cloud, but with a different type of digital lock and key. So in the cloud, that's what it looks like. And then it comes through the large language models. So Heidi is not a machine learning type of AI. It uses several large language models to format the outputs that you see. So then what happens is the information that's stored in the cloud comes through the large language models, following the rules that are in the templates, because that's really what makes Heidi Heidi, is the information that tells the template what to look like. And that is using large language models. And then you have your pretty outputs, which would be things like your letters or emails to case managers, letters to the GP, and your ACC reports for today's context. And then the last and final step is to review. So this is extremely important, because having the wrong information has implications larger than yourself, especially when dealing with ACC. So remembering that a tool, an AI tool of any kind, including Heidi, is there to support and improve your workflow, but it doesn't take away the responsibility that is yours with that document that is going to be placed somewhere. So step 4 is always to check, edit, and then save the note that you're happy with that reflects that session best into your PMS. So what I'm sure Josh will also touch on, but you can also like bring into your templates to create a bit of a checklist on what might be missing from your reports that could help you with your review stage. But that's a little bit on the advanced side. But at the end of the day, your responsibility is to check your work. So on that note, I'm going to stop sharing, and I am going to introduce our lovely, lovely host, or special guest rather, Josh Wilks. Josh Wilks, he is a physio himself, and is very, excuse me, passionate about bringing AI close to the allied health workflow. And we're very grateful for him being here tonight. He's worked for a major rehab provider and has worked closely with ACC template creation within the rehab space. So on that note, I'm going to stop talking now because my voice is disappearing somehow, and I'm going to hand over to Josh.
Thank you, Sarah, and thanks guys for coming in today. Hopefully you get a lot out of today. I've designed this session to make sure that you come out of it feeling like you've got a lot of FOMO, basically, if you're not using these kind of things. And there's a lot of value to be had here for ACC and reporting and contracts. So very keen to show you guys, I guess, what is possible with a little bit of configuration and a little bit of work.
Sorry, Josh, just to butt in 1 second. Bit of housekeeping. Please feel free to pop any questions in the Q&A side panel, and Max, our wonderful colleague, teammate, will answer any questions, and then we will have designated Q&A time at the end, but we'll try and answer questions as we're going in the side panel too. I'll also be keeping an eye on what's happening there, and we can work together to answer those. But yeah, stay interactive, and thank you for joining.
Yeah, and our final housekeeping thing there'll be a bunch of stuff that I go through after the session, the slides, and there'll be a bit of essentially like a take-home pack for you guys. So if I'm rushing through anything, you can kind of ask us a question at the end, but also you'll have all the information sent to you if you've signed up for this. So that will include any of the templates that I've used to make these things here, any prompts that I've used, and also my contact details if you want to kind of do anything follow up. Max, feel free to interject at the right time if there's any questions that you feel like add to it. Otherwise, without further ado, here we go. So since about September last year, I was brought up to do a implementation of Heidi for our team, and during that time, Heidi out of the box wasn't really set up to do reporting. And I think if you guys are using Heidi now, you will see that straight away it's not very easy to see how you can generate entire reports with Heidi. Through a lot of iteration and some back and forths and working with some amazing team members, the Heidi is able to do that, and it's able to do that very powerfully. And during that time, I realized that something had changed in the workflows of the people that were working. And it wasn't just in the workflows, but it's also, I guess, like in the day-to-day work of people that were doing reporting and key working and contracts. I had multiple team members that used to be very high achievers and would be working 50 plus hours to kind of make their targets, doing reports at night time, like trying to squeeze them in between patients and still give the most to their patients. They were trying to do a ton of volume and do it really well. And this is one thing that I like to call now when I'm thinking of it. Essentially, it's the reporting trade-off. So what is the reporting trade-off? The reporting trade-off is the fact that, and you guys, I can't see anyone here because no camera's off. I imagine there might be a little bit of nodding of heads, I'm hoping. If you're a key worker for some of these contracts, or if you do a lot of reporting and client work, you had to choose. Do you want quantity in terms of like getting the emails out, getting the reports out, making sure that everyone was kind of contacted? Like, were you doing a lot of the office-based work and admin-based work that kept the cogs turning and essential to making these things happen? Or do you want quality? Do you want to spend more time with clients? Do you want to spend more time typing up those reports to make sure they really clearly, accurately reflect everything? Do you want to make sure that you are putting that detail in? Everyone who's operating in this space is sitting somewhere along this line, and everyone will have the justification for why they are sitting there. And I think especially if you are independent, you notice the tension, right? Because you are thinking, well, I need to do enough work to make sure I've got enough volume coming in, but I also have to make sure that work's high quality. What tools like Heidi allow you to do is change that to allowing you to do both. So again, now someone may sit somewhere on this quality and quantity line. Essentially, what these tools allow you to do is go high quality and high quantity. Now that may seem like that you kind of have to choose, right? There's a case here. I can either do more or I can do it better. But I think, as you can see in the next steps, you can kind of do more and do it better if you have the right workflows. So I'm going to go through one thing in detail and then another thing if I've got time at the end. My first case I'm going to show you is a stay at work case, which should be familiar for a lot of people. People that don't like VOC, there is a serious case at the end. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten about you. And if you are in other ACC contracts, I think you can use the same stuff here to extrapolate the workflows. We're going to be focusing mainly on the assessment phase of the workflow here. So starting off with that initial assessment through to the report rather than the ongoing rehab phase, which is, you would use it differently, but I think most of the time savings are here. So I've got a very brief case here that after this I will go through to Heidi and kind of show you what it looks like. He's a dispatch coordinator. He's got a right shoulder injury. He's on lower shifts, so his doc signed him off. He's got a lifting limit of 3 kilos, and pretty standard, right? Pretty standard case here. So essentially, the way to think about this now is that, and this is already what we do, and you'll see when I go into Heidi what I'm talking about here, is that when you are doing all of this work, you are orchestrating a lot and you're having to put a lot in your head. So when someone comes in, there's a bunch of documents that you have to review or have at least an understanding of. Then you have to have your referral note and MedCert, and then you have your initial assessment that you have to do a detailed assessment in, and then you have to take all of that and somehow figure out how to configure that into all of these different outputs, right? So your stay at work report is your main thing, which is a representation of everything that's happened there. But then there's also maybe a bunch of other stuff that you have to do. You have to email the GP, you have to email back to ACC. Ideally, you're also thinking about emailing the client. Then you're also uploading it up into whatever you're using, GenSolve or Nucal or Clinico or whatever it is. Oftentimes, it's these actions at the end where you kind of have to cut a few. Maybe your email to the client and employer is very brief and not as detailed as you'd like it to be. Maybe that email to the case manager is a quick summary that, yep, I've done it, rather than the detail that you would have liked. But let's show you guys how you can essentially do both in the time allocated. I want to put the thing up front that I said I would. So I have seen reductions, and my team have seen reductions in the time it takes them to complete reports of the same or better quality by 50 to 75%. So I have people that routinely are doing stay at work reports in 15 minutes compared to 60, right? And that is extrapolated out to much more detailed reports, wheelchair and seating, you name it. 50% reduction is the norm, with people getting up more and more, even with some people not putting reporting time in their diaries because they're able to change their workflow so much that it becomes just something that they generate based on really good assessments. Okay. That pull up, Sarah, can you just give me a thumbs up? I should be on my Heidi screen.
Yeah, you're all good. I can see Heidi's screen.
Lovely. Is there any questions, Max, before I jump in there that need to line in, or can we keep rolling?
And
Good.
keep rolling.
Yes,
Keep
there's
rolling.
one specific one for ACC. Sorry, Josh. One would be, have you worked with ACC to develop the ACC content?
No. What do you mean? Maybe there can be some elaboration, but I mean, I've worked for a long time with ACC, but not like specifically with them. So, the content, I guess, if you mean by the reports, is all available because we get, report templates and stuff. So you'll be able to see that, I guess, when I go through to that next step. So here we go. If you haven't seen Heidi, this is what it looks like. If you have, this will feel very familiar. So first thing up, you can see here we have our context. Context is just everything you are thinking about when you're doing assessment. So I've just pasted some information in here, but you can upload anything you need to about the patient. Very routinely, we would upload the referral, we would upload the medical certificate, we would upload relevant previous documentation. Sometimes if you get a bulk print of 200 pages, the report from 5 years ago with a psychologist, maybe you don't really want it to be pulled into context. So I think rule number one to take away here is only put into context the stuff that you are going to use to write your report, because the way that these models work is they can't understand if something is extremely relevant or not too relevant based on a date, or at least not reliably. So only chuck in the stuff that you really care about here to generate everything else. From your context, you also do your initial assessment, right? And that generates a transcript. So you can see here, this is just what a transcript ends up looking like. It becomes a bunch of text. There's no speaker and clinician, or anyone. So I think that's also good to keep in mind, is that you will start to, if you haven't already, talking a little bit different in your assessments, because Heidi can't see, doesn't have eyes. So if someone goes, oh, my shoulder, like you might be dictating a little bit of that. So it also doesn't have what the employee is saying and what the employee is saying. From that, a note gets generated. So I've just created a more detailed note here that has all the stuff that I would need from initial assessment. This is your primary representation that you would put back into GenSolve or whatever else you are using as a summary of your initial assessment, right? And this is what gets used to then generate the rest of your documents. So I've got a few emails here, but first thing I want to show here is a stay at work. So this is a stay at work report generating, right? It's got all of the information from Alex. It's got, in the SOAP note, I talked about a return to work plan. These all operate as templates. So essentially, once you get one that you like, you can start tweaking it and playing around with the wording. Also, Heidi has something called personalization. So as you tweak and play around with the wording and tell it to change things, it will start remembering those things. So maybe I really like signing off as kia ora or whatever it is. Well, then after you do that a couple of times, Heidi will start to remember that, and you'll notice it popping up in your notes. So as you can see here, and this will look somewhat familiar, but then you'll see how you can kind of copy these over to Word to make it easy. This is all set up just like your stay at work report. You've got your tables that you can come over. You've got your generated return to work plan. So I think the important thing to see here is that none of this is fabricated. Everything in here is exactly what is generated from your note or your context or your transcript. So that is one of the key things that makes these tools reliable to use, is that, it says 4, 6, 8, but if it's not grounded in context, you have to kind of painstakingly make sure that this stuff is really detailed, but it can only generate from the right stuff, essentially, or it will leave it blank. So that's how these templates are set up. And you'll begin to notice that the wording is essentially enough. There's enough detail there. Initial activities, I don't know if anyone does source, but usually this stuff is very often copy and paste. So there's a lot of stuff that we just skip over where you can now get bespoke stuff. That's one thing. I will show you the pasting over to Word maybe later on if it's something that people want, or I can send it in the documents through. But essentially, once you've got this and you download it, it is very easy to put it over to whatever report that you are generating. So I think for most of us at work, you have your template that you generate with whatever case management system that has your details in it. A lot of this stuff can be very easily just copied over to the correct space for you to then send your report off. So usually that step only takes a few minutes. So the next thing is, I've got all these emails I need to send, right? And often they are in some sort of letter format that you then fill out in the gaps. I've just got a few examples here. They are all based from templates that are in the library. So let's just say I need to reply back to the GP. Here is my generated return to work email that has all the information that me or my organization requires based on our template for them to review. And the content isn't the main thing here, guys. I think the most important thing is that this can be your organization's template. This can be your way that you write things. It does not have to be given to you. You can create it and modify it and make it yours. So there's also a lot of people that get a little bit hesitant because they're like, I have a specific way I write things. I have a specific way I want to word things. I don't want just some generic sloppy output. Beautiful thing about this is you can make sure that there are enough rules and the way you change it to essentially have these, after a few times, sound exactly like you in a much shorter time frame. Here's an email to the client and employer as well, kind of saying, hey, here we go. Here's your return to work plan. Here are the things that each of us have to do. And, just like some general baseline stuff of what you'd want a client to have or an employer to have after something like that. Case manager, same thing. Again, like there's some activities and responsibilities. Like I think you can choose whatever you want to in here. And I think that's the thing. You don't have to choose to do it if you have enough time or not anymore. You can even dictate in here and go like just a couple of minutes and go, I need an email to the exercise physiologist. I talk to him on the phone and blah, blah, blah. That's often what I do as well, is I would just start dictating and I'll do a 1 or 2 minute voice dump of a thing I need to do. And then that just gets turned into your first draft of whatever you're going to be sending out. What that means is that end to end, the stay at work reporting can drop down from, let's just say, if I was going to generate those 3 emails and that report, and I was going to type them to that level of detail, might be hour and a half, maybe 45 minutes if I'm nailing it. Those are all generated within a few minutes, and then you spend your little bit of time editing, but it changes the way that you can do the work in these services because you can spend more time with your clients. You can go out to workplaces more. And all of these things can be done from your phone or from your laptop on the go. So you can become a lot more mobile and a lot more out in the community rather than feeling like you have to make that choice. And that is so, I might pause there because I imagine there's probably quite a few questions after that. Keen to have a few questions of anything, guys, that may have come up from that, because it might be very different to how people have used Heidi so far.
It's looking.
I reckon we can take some questions. Let's do it. Vicky, can people talk?
I actually don't know. How do we do that? Max, help.
Oh, I can unmute. Okay, there we go. Vicky, you should be able to turn your mic on if you had a question.
No.
Hi. Yes, I can speak. There you go.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm Vicky. I'm a
Hi, Vicky.
registered nurse that's doing SOARs and back to works. So I was really interested when you said to show you how to copy and paste it into the reports, and the easy way, because I think I'm doing it the hard way. And those templates look really good too. So I was just, rather than me recreating the wheel, it would be great to have a copy of those templates as well, if you don't mind sharing them.
Yeah, I'll so that'll all be, I'll send about a big pack of stuff for everyone in this invite to go. And I might actually just chuck a bunch of stuff start chucking a bunch of stuff on the public thing. So you know how there's that public library? I'll just make it very clear that's all available and start populating it there.
Josh, there's quite a lot of, there are, I think about 18 ACC templates in the community library at the moment, SOAR included as an initial progress and completion, if I'm not mistaken. So you can also look at those.
Yeah, and for the copy and pasting word, I think for the interest of time for everyone here, I will have like a detailed tutorial of how to do it, and maybe even a wee video that I will send separately in the pack out. Otherwise, so you also have it to refer back to. But essentially, it is as simple as copying and pasting tables over, and you drag them over. But very cool, Vicky, to have some more nurses as well in the VOC space. I know some great VOC nurses, so awesome.
Josh, question from Megan. In your experience, what setup do you use with Heidi? Your phone, your laptop? I found that the transcription can occasionally miss parts of the conversation when I'm using my cell phone. Also, does Heidi integrate with Microsoft Teams for transcription, or does it only pick up things via the speaker on your phone during Teams meetings? I'm just going to butt in for the last part. So I use Heidi a lot for my meeting minutes when I'm meeting with people on Teams. So I just would start Heidi on my phone and do my Teams meetings like I am like right now. And it will just, the moment that I finish that call, I'll press stop. It will sync straight to Heidi. So I hope that answers the Teams question. And then Josh, you can say how you use Heidi in the field.
Yeah, so phone is going to be the best. I think if you've got the Heidi app on your phone and you use that primarily as your recording device, it's much easier. I know that Heidi actually have a piece of hardware that you could take in if you're going hardcore and you really liked using it. Like, I think that is going to be the limiter for a lot of places. If you're going into like a busy or louder workplace, you are limited a little bit by, oh, Max, there you go. Can you flick one down this way, please? So the microphone is going to be a limiter for some people, but I have had from people working in almost every community area that your phone recording does 99% of the job if you're using the Heidi app. The Teams meeting things, you can have a play around. I believe there's a telehealth function here, and if you download the Heidi application rather than use it through the web, that will work pretty well. So we use people through, we did a lot of work with Microsoft Teams. Like that's how we do our client interviews, and as long as the telehealth transcription setting was running in the background while the meeting was on, it would pick everything up.
And maybe just from my end, in terms of picking something up, it's also very important to just make sure that the settings are all set. So you've got your speciality set up so that there's specific clinical jargon that is being picked up. You've got the languages that are going to be spoken set up, or you can also have an auto function now as well. And if anything in the transcribed note ever feels like it's been missed, you can always go back into the transcription as well, so that text field, and just double check if it has been said, and then you could just copy and paste it back over. Yes, I think there was one more question for you, Josh. When will the phone app
I think that one I'll take offline.
Yeah.
But short workaround at the moment would just be to start start Heidi on another device and manage the session that way. If on a phone call, that's what we're doing in a simple set. But this is a conversation that is being taken in several directions, Kerry. So that would be a good one to follow up with in another meeting. Don't want to hijack the whole session.
Awesome. Since I do have a bit of time, I might share you as well the thing that I've been playing with a little bit more about improving. It's very cool to be able to generate more notes faster and generate your reports faster and have a little bit more detail than you usually would. But I think the thing that will become really, I actually think like it's going to be used a lot for people is that in longer term rehab, there's a large variance of outcome, more based on the amount of like effort we're able to put into our planning. So, I'm going to go to the training for independence or Te Ata Tū, Te Ata Pō, more serious injury conversation here, but I think you can again use the same framework for any medium to longer term, medium to serious injury client, is that oftentimes, even though we have all these planning hours, it can be quite hard to conceptualize, let's just say, a 12 or 24-week rehab program. This person has these goals. They are 1 out of 10 in this certain goal. They want to be a 10. How do I get there? You can go through your usual paths of like, okay, I'll start here and just slow growing up. But I think it's quite hard to actually step through those steps end to end and have the time to do it. So I've just made a few prompts here, and this is getting a little bit fancy, but you can excuse my fanciness for a little bit. Essentially, with evidence, so Heidi Evidence allows you to search clinical databases, essentially, or your own data. Heidi and these models can also generate, for lack of a better word, like web pages, right? So I just wanted to show you a few cool prompts that I'll put in to kind of show you how these things can work if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of them. What I was doing here was I've got a client here who's you've done your initial TI assessment, right? And this person has some goals, and you want to figure out a few things. First thing I wanted to figure out is like, okay, here's a prompt here that I'll share, is essentially, what is the architecture? Like, how can I start thinking about this person's goals? Okay. So what it has done is searched up, and ignore the coding here. Essentially, that's just what it looks like when it makes web pages. But this has made a web page. And this web page has each of the goals formatted however you would kind of like. And I just like, it's just a nice visual way to start looking at these things. Okay, so school morning routine and school drop off. Here's a quote from Mary. Here is what's reported and observed. Here is where she is along those levels, which I think if you work in the TI space, you'll notice that this is all what ACC requires. Milestones. How do we know how to break this down into a 10-week program? Well, from this prompt and what a really good assessment, I want to be clear that none of this is available unless you ask the right questions and do the right things in the assessment. Here's a bit of a 10-week breakdown of how you could depend this. Here's how we measure achievement, right? Rather than just saying, okay, PSFS, here's my goal out of 10. Here's some ideas to how to actually do these things. Here's some dependencies, and it can go through those next steps. This next one here, I know, again, this looks a lot, but it's essentially your TI dashboard. It's got the goals here. It's got the adaptive pathways, essentially how I would think about changing those goals. It's got the, sorry, this is so cool, guys. It's got the weeks of what you should do, and like the different, like here's these different week details of like all of these different things that you could and should be thinking about. Like the detail that you're able to get from essentially a very good assessment and like the right questions and the right tools to be able to search. I think what this does is it actually shows you the complexity that goes into rehab and long-term rehab. And very often it's very hard to get that complexity out of your head and onto that paper. But I would guarantee that most of you people in this room are thinking about these things in these gates, and there's no way to actually get them out there to the client or be able to share them with the IDT. Very soon, these tools will be in a place where each person could have something like this. You have your MDT working on these and editing this main thing. So they've got like a dashboard. On the other side, client resources, right? So usually you might send your also, Amy, this is there are ways to do this. It's probably outside the scope of here. And Kimberly, I'll give you the prompts after this. Okay, so I'll have all the prompts for that later. This next one here's a lovely wee, like, it's a phone app, like, for Media, and she's got her little independence plan, right? She's got what she's working towards. There's her goals there. Here's a wee thing just to remind you about how far she's going. Here's what to do over the next fortnight with the different people that are going to be doing it. Here's a wee morning checklist that she can check on and off. Here's her plan, do, pause, review thing. I think I can't even remember what frame that was. Traffic lights, green, amber, red, and pain service that I used to work. That was a framework that I often gave, but it was very hard to, give the right stuff. And here we go. Here's a thing for how my whānau can help without taking over. A lot of people get stuck in this place where essentially they are the person that is disabled, right? I did a lot of that in postgrad with rehab. How do you break people out from that? Well, you have to give people framework and like tasks to do, right? And so final thing there before anything else is, this is actually what it's called. So this here is a critical challenge of the plan and goal. It has gone and had a look at the research, which is down the bottom, and gone, how does the research agree or disagree with your goal and everything? And then it has again, I want to more put this at the level of like the clinical advisor, or like if you are someone who is, again, operating at the top of your game and you are wanting to really, change the way and like be challenged and be critiqued, now you can have this without having, let's just say, the leading people in the field be your supervisors. You can have something which is close to it, at least for you to start thinking about these things. So I wanted to share those things. They may be like a little bit like too much for some people, but this is where you can get this tomorrow, essentially, if you're using these and incorporate these into your workflows as a key worker now to really change how you practice. And I think that's that cooler part of this, right? Is at the end of the day, if you're working for Medi and you're doing a TI program and you have this kind of framework and you have a fully detailed bespoke plan for every single session you are going in, you can build this up so it's adaptable to the sessions, right? And you can update it. So if it didn't go as well, it could adapt the rest of the plan and change it out. I think those things are the really cool things as well. Okay, so my soapbox, I'm off it now. That's all I had for today. Hopefully it has got people excited to have a play around and see what they can kind of do, because really your creativity and your imagination is a kind of barrier to all of these things. I think we can open it up now.
Yeah, Josh, that was amazing. Thank you. I mean, I learned so much. Feel free to unmute yourself, hands up, ask questions, but I'll reply to Lorna. You can use Heidi outside of internet access, and then what will happen is the session will sync to whichever device when you do come back into Signal. So yeah. Josh, thank you so much. Honestly, incredible. Those prompts are mind-blowing. I love how like you've shown like a bigger vision of just outside of template creation and those action items, but more of a systems level thinking within a tool like Heidi using the evidence space. So thank you. That was super enlightening. I hope you guys found it as helpful. Don't be shy. Oh, wait, there's a question. Q&A. Oh, looking forward to the resource packs, says Christine. Anybody else? Now's your time to annoy Josh. Hopefully this just means that it's being well absorbed, Josh.
Yeah, stunned silence. Everyone's already in Heidi making their own templates. I don't want to waste an extra second.
Yeah. Vicky, question.
Just it might be the same for other people. I can see some people commenting, but the chat is saying for me that chat is only available during the meeting, so I'm not able to comment. So that might be the case for other people too, for some reason.
What do you mean? Like can't?
I can't click and chat and ask any questions. It says chat is only available during the meeting.
But people can just like put their hands up and unmute themselves as well.
Yeah,
like you did.
Absolutely.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. With Sarah, just unmute yourself if you can. Can everyone?
No, they can't. You've got to allow the mic.
Okay.
I wonder, Max, can you just turn everyone's permissions on so they can kind of get their cameras on and everything?
Yeah.
Anyway, Sarah, you should. I've allowed your mic, so you can unmute if you want to.
Yeah, same. I allowed your mic, Sarah.
Oh.
Now,
there we go.
it took a second to allow me to speak. I had a question, but to the question before, if I got that right, someone said that they couldn't use Heidi Evidence during a session. From my experience, you can use it if you use the chat below your session. You cannot open Evidence, which you have on the left side navigation bar, which would be the no context evidence.
Yes.
Yes, but my question was, because I think I missed that part, where you suddenly started presenting all these websites. Is Heidi vibe coding now, or how did you get there? Sorry, probably said it, but I was just in awe when I saw all that things that you created.
Yeah, so I mean, basically the models behind Heidi are also the latest AI models that people are using to do everything else. And but anything that is text-based, these things can do. And websites at the end of the day are just text, and it's all visual, right? But it's a much better way usually to like see information. So short answer, yes.
Sorry, but did Heidi create that code for you, and then you had to know which tools to use to turn this code into a website, or was there somehow a direct link from your chat?
I will quickly share actually, so you guys see. So literally, I've got my prompt here, right? Can we see that? So this is just an evidence. I just chucked it down the bottom, and then it went away for quite a long time. And then basically after this, my mind goes a little bit fuzzy. So I just click the download button and open it in my web browser. Okay, so then it went away and went do 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 and did all of these things, which is like the actual detail. And then you just all you need to do is see this download button when these are coming through. You click download and then it'll be in your downloads. And you just open up in whatever web browser you use. So if you double click it on your downloads, it'll open up. So what that means right now, though, is that they aren't things that you can share to others. It is more just kind of for your own, I guess, resources or learning. But it is only a matter of time, I think, before these things become kind of more native within tools like Heidi. We've just got to build it essentially.
And just on the question whether or not Heidi can generate pictures of exercises, Heidi can definitely create PDF documents that can have links to exercises, and those exercises will be pulled from databases that are reliable and that are credible. And you could also add your own database of exercises to pull from. So if you've got X amount of rehabilitation exercises for a certain shoulder issue that you want to rehabilitate, you could ask Heidi to only use that information to create that PDF explainer from.
I see there's Jennifer Templey. I don't know if she's still here. Josh, Max, maybe we can reach out to Jennifer and do some specific training for the going through some ClinPsych stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
Bonnie.
I'm
Hey,
here.
Bonnie. Websites that on the platform. I can kind of run you through that at another point. But the short answer is right now it is just like a way to display these things. They're not a kind of interactive thing right now, but you could regenerate it when you have new evidence, if you know what I mean. So you could have something that kind of regenerates the same thing, or you can download it, put it. Like I'll put more context in the pack about explaining how to use it a little bit better, I think.
Okay.
But like just the capability is, I think, is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Vicky. Sorry if I butted in. There's a delay on my side. Vicky, with the pre-populate the doc templates of ACC, that is new. I'm still figuring out how to do that because it's literally been built very recently. So that's in the very, very near stuff future where it will work like the PDF fillables, but it will just be a doc. So once that is happening, I'll make a Loom video and put that on our website too. But yeah, we'll be getting there probably in the next. I don't even know what to promise. I'm not going to promise anything, but very, very soon.
Abby, I feel like there's probably going to be a few things, and what I might also do is that there's going to be, I think there's a space on how to use that in a very powerful way to use Heidi and Heidi Evidence from a supervisory standpoint. I'd actually say that if you're in a practice management or organizational level, it may be worthwhile to opt into having Heidi Evidence be rolled out to people that are the supervisors or the clinical advisors first, and then having like a select number of, and what you can kind of do when you roll out to your team is you give a number of prompts that your team is allowed to use to essentially make sure that you are curating the database to ensure that it is aligned with what you want to do. Or you can have your own internal database of evidence, so there's no searching externally. This is quite good though, because I think a lot of these questions are things that will be over the next few weeks that I will do some more kind of like essentially content or writing on, because I think those are the questions that make it from like this theoretical thing into, okay, how do you roll it out in practice? But in short, if it's something that you're serious about, let's talk. Kerry,
yeah.
Oh, Kerry, template. No, there's a memories function now. So essentially, when it pops up, it'll be like, Heidi saved a new memory about you. You can click on that, and it will have a list of all of the memories Heidi has for you, and then you can go and edit them and delete them. So you can, or you can add them your own, like your preferences, basically. So it's not there. The templates you'll see a wee pop up. Yeah, I think it's mix and match though. Emma, I'll put it in the.
We can send it through our channels. We can send it through our channels as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I have been a little bit quiet on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn's where I'm going to put all of this stuff. So give me a wee follow, and we can have a wee chat through there, and I'll have my details there. I love talking about this stuff, so anything like that. Sarah, with science, we're using Heidi during the assessment isn't appropriate. What is the most efficient way to use it afterwards? What our team were doing is a dictation in the car, basically straight after, voice dump, 5 to 10 minutes, try to get everything that you can remember. If you are writing handwritten notes during the assessment, you can take photos of those notes and upload them into the context. So that's usually the best way, is like the sooner the better. So that context that you have in your head doesn't get left. So, it's not necessary that you have to record it in there. You just have to kind of make sure you talk through what happened in a very structured way. Assessment happening over multiple sessions. There's a couple of ways that you can do it. You can link sessions, but it's not too... Right now, it's not really set up for that. I think I remember talking to the Heidi team a while ago on like having a patient view that is slowly coming in. What I would recommend if there are many sessions is to essentially have you'd have your main assessment session, but then you're probably going to have a bunch of notes from all of those sessions, and this is getting a little bit more technical, but put them all in the context of one session, and then you generate your report based on that. So I'd do many sessions. Each session would generate a note. Once you're ready to write your report, get all the notes from your previous sessions, put them in the context of the latest one, and then that becomes where you write your report. TI completion report. It's a little bit harder, Gina. I'd say the best way is there can be workflows of basically you can have a back and forth with Heidi and be like, hey, I need to generate this completion report. Ask me some questions about what I want to have in it, and then it will generate the context. If you are able to export your notes in some way, or you can even copy paste the notes that you care about and put that into context, that can do the completion report. Oftentimes organizations won't want to have sessions saved for more than 30 days. So you're not going to have a 6-month history available. So keep that in mind as well, that Heidi is not really meant to be a record of it's not your case management system, right? So you still have to make sure that it goes into your case management system, and that is your record. And it has to, to follow all of our guidelines, everything, 24 hours. It has to be in your case management system. So I'd say completion report, go into your case management system, grab all the relevant details, chuck it into a new session in Heidi, do a quick dictation rather than new transcript, and then use your template to generate a report. Voices mixed up with sign speech to the wrong person. Agree. I think they just released an update recently, Sarah or Max, where they improved the scribe function to help with that. But I think it's kind of one of those things where privacy has to be first for these things, and as soon as you ascribe a person to that voice, it gets a little bit murky. What I would say is that it's good to add a little bit of context afterwards, or just make sure you're signposting when someone else has spoken, or just to be aware of that, right? Sometimes until where you are actually getting a recording of what is happening in there, or we have different technology, it's not quite there. Multiple therapists involved doing visits different times into the same TI plan. Yes, you can share. You can share sessions or copy session IDs in Heidi.
But the practice plan only.
Yep. So essentially, yes, you can share the same sessions. But if you're adding to the same TI plan, you'd want to have your shared document in Word or whatever, and your CMS. But you could share sessions with each other to be like, hey, check this out. I talked about this and this, and then people could use that session to help generate their document potentially. Again, I think that's things that you'd want some one-on-one assistance with yourself or your team to set those things up so they actually just work. But worthwhile to play around. Declines content. No, it just means you can't record it. So you can usually it's you can still dictate and stuff, right? It's just saying that they don't want Heidi to record them.
In session, their word for word. They don't want their word for word. Even though there's no voice, but
Lovely.
okay. Well, guys, we are almost out of time. So to wrap things up, Max?
Well, I might just throw in a shameless plug for our new hardware piece, which is called Heidi Remote. Now, it is a small pin-like, almost like a medical device. That's a microphone that can be worn with a magnet or with a clip or with a lanyard. And it's kind of the perfect between your phone recording, but I guess some patients don't really like the phone being used for recording, especially a clinician's personal phone, and your computer with a microphone or your laptop with a microphone. This acts as Heidi hardware standalone. Now, this can be used with or without internet connection. It can save up to 13 hours of conversation on there. And it's just, I guess, a very easy 2-button press to record. Now the light turns red and now the recording has started. You can hold it down when the recording wants to finish, and now it saves the recording, and you can just go through your whole clinical day doing just that. And then whenever you have connection to your either phone or web Heidi app, it will then synchronize those sessions. So that's a very nice way of not having to schlep around your equipment, especially if you're out and about in the community. And it also helps with those information dumps, after you've seen a client. It's just a quick button press. It saves it. It can, I think the battery lasts up to 13 hours as well of just continuous conversation. Yep. So that is a very nice addition that you could add to your Heidi usage. I think it's about $450 NZ dollars at the moment, and it's a one-off payment, obviously. So that's something that I'd just like to share with you.
Yeah, I can do discounted for more than one board at a time as well.
Shameless plug, but
yeah,
it's great.
Okay,
and
guys.
If you're a contractor, you can expense it. There you go, business expense.
That's so funny. but true. Guys, thank you everybody for being here. Josh, thank you so much for your time. Honestly, so valuable. Learned so much. Thanks, Max, for joining, and to everybody else. Have a wonderful evening. Like I said, we'll share this. Oh, someone had a question. Do you want to ask something, or were you just? Was it Melanie? No. We will share this recording of the session, put it on the website, and then we can also share Josh's content with everyone. Otherwise, keep a lookout on LinkedIn for what he's got to share, because there's lots to learn from Josh. So yeah, and any Heidi related questions from the differences between free practice and enterprise, those would probably be best answered by Max or myself. But yeah, thank you again for joining us this evening, and have a wonderful Tuesday. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Josh.
Bye.
Thanks, team.